Imagine a world where your absence isn't just noticed. It is felt as a fundamental disruption, a sudden tremor in the ground beneath your organization's feet. What if your value was so undeniable, so woven into the very fabric of your environment, that no one would ever dare question your place? This isn't about being bossy or loud. It is about a subtle art, the art of indispensability. Forget the endless hustle to prove your worth, the begging for recognition, or the fishing for compliments. There is a smarter, colder, more strategic way to secure your position, and you do it by making yourself irreplaceable without ever seeming to try. We are dissecting the hidden architecture of becoming essential, showing you how to stop fighting for recognition and start embodying necessity. If you are tired of feeling like just another cog in the machine, easily replaced by the next eager recruit, pay attention. You are about to learn how to build your own fortress. Niccolò Machiavelli once observed that it is far safer for a leader to be needed than to be loved. Love is a fickle emotion, built on the shifting sands of gratitude and affection, ties that snap the moment self-interest enters the room. But necessity is a chain of iron. Most people operate on what I call the meritocracy delusion. They believe that if they work hard, keep their heads down, and produce good results, they will be rewarded and secured. This is dangerously naive. Hard work is a commodity. Competence is merely the baseline expectation. If you are merely competent, you are, by definition, replaceable. The goal of the strategic operative is not to be the hardest worker in the room, but to be the structural integrity of the room itself. You do not want to be the decoration, you want to be the load-bearing wall. This requires a shift in mindset from contribution to integration. You must stop performing tasks and start owning processes. You must weave your unique capabilities so deeply into the operations of your network that untangling you would cost more than keeping you satisfied. This requires a level of subtlety that most lack. The person who shouts about their importance is rarely actually important. True power is silent because it is self-evident. The first pillar of this architecture is the monopoly of insight. In any complex system, information naturally gets siloed. The marketing department doesn't understand engineering. The engineers don't understand finance. The executives don't understand the ground-level reality. These silos create friction, and your opportunity lies exactly in those friction points. Do not try to be the master of everything. That is a path to exhaustion. Instead, become the master of the intersection. Find two critical areas in your world that do not speak the same language and become the only translator. When you become the bridge between two vital but disconnected islands of power, you control the traffic between them. You are no longer just doing a job, you are facilitating the flow of necessary intelligence. You must develop a personal archive, a proprietary way of synthesizing information or tracking trends that lives only in your head. It is about cultivating a nuanced understanding of a specific vital problem set that makes you the only one holding the complete map when a crisis hits. Insight is the foundation, but structural integration is the fortress. You must move from being a participant in a system to being the architect of the system. Look at your current role. If you are just executing tasks that someone else designed, you are temporary. Your goal is to identify repetitive problems and build proprietary solutions for them. You don't just solve the problem, you build the framework that solves it every time. You create the template, the workflow, and the automation. But here is the Machiavellian twist. Do not make the system entirely turnkey. If you build a machine that anyone can run without you, you have just automated yourself out of a career. You must build systems that are highly effective and widely relied upon, but which require your unique touch for optimization, troubleshooting, or high-level interpretation. You want to create dependency loops where the success of others, especially powerful others, is dependent on inputs that only your system provides. You are embedding yourself into the nervous system of the organization. You are not a removable appendage, you are the spinal cord. Once you have established this integration, you must manage perception through controlled visibility. The amateur wants credit for everything and is loud about their efforts. The professional wants credit only for the results. Think of an iceberg. 90% of its mass is below the water, invisible, providing the stability and the lethal force. Only 10% is visible. Be that iceberg. Do not let them see the sweat or the chaotic effort it takes to maintain your systems. When you make difficult things look easy, people assume you possess a natural, inherent capability that others lack. It builds a necessary mystique. Finally, you must employ the ultimate test of indispensability, strategic absence. How do you prove you are essential without shouting it? You let them feel the void when you are gone. If you are truly indispensable, your absence should cause pain and friction. Decisions should stall. Use your periods of unavailability strategically. Choose times when you know your unique inputs will be critically missed. Do not be accessible. Let the machine sputter. When you return and things immediately smooth out, the lesson is learned without a single word being spoken. They realize that the smooth operation they take for granted is actually dependent on your presence. Pain is a fantastic teacher. Let them briefly taste a world without you, and they will ensure they never have to digest the whole meal. The path to becoming irreplaceable is a long game requiring patience, observation, and a chilling detachment from the need for immediate applause. While others are desperately trying to impress the king, you are quietly building the castle walls he sleeps behind. Build your monopoly of insight, integrate yourself into the flow of power, and let your periodic absence serve as a stark reminder of your value. Craft your presence so it is beyond question. Make them need you, and you will never have to ask for anything again. In the labyrinthine commercial empire of 17th century Venice, the House of Dandolo was a titan. Its ships sailed every sea and its banks financed kings. At the head was the aging patriarch Giovanni Dandolo, a man of bold gestures who surrounded himself with loud advisors who fought for credit. Among these peacocks was Marco, a quiet man of middling birth who served in the archives. Marco was rarely seen at high tables and never flattered the patriarch. While others jostled for visibility, Marco occupied himself with the most tedious corner of the empire, the correspondence network. The house's wealth depended on information arriving faster than its rivals, but the reports used a dozen different complex ciphers that were frequently misunderstood by the loud advisors who preferred simple summaries. Marco realized that the house owned the information, but nobody understood it. Over 5 years, Marco didn't just decode messages, he built a system. He created a master index, a massive cross-reference tome that only he knew how to navigate. It contextualized ciphers against weather patterns and political shifts, synthesizing raw data into actionable intelligence. He also quietly inserted himself as a structural bridge, convincing harbor masters that shipment manifests needed his personal seal for verification and ensuring banking clerks required his review for authenticity before payment. He made himself a bottleneck, but an efficient one. The loud advisors found their plans only succeeded when Marco quietly smoothed the path with the right intelligence. They took the credit and Marco let them. He was the iceberg beneath the water. The crisis arrived in the winter of 1642. A massive Ottoman fleet was rumored to be moving toward Crete, threatening the house's most valuable trade hub. The loud advisors panicked, flooding Giovanni with contradictory advice. Some cried to pull the ships back, others to hire mercenaries. They brought the patriarch piles of encrypted dispatches they couldn't agree on. Giovanni, seeing his empire facing ruin, roared for silence. He looked at the chaos of paper and realized he was looking at gibberish. He demanded to see the archivist. Marco was summoned and entered the grand chamber calmly. He did not offer an opinion. He simply opened a leather satchel and removed a single, concise page. He explained that by cross-referencing the captain's reports with banking signals and grain manifests, he had discovered the Ottoman fleet was not moving to attack, but to Winter Harbor due to a plague outbreak. They were vulnerable, not aggressive. The panic was based on a misread cipher from a frightened captain. The room went silent. Giovanni realized in that moment that his entire empire was flying blind without the eyes of this unassuming archivist. The loud advisors were replaceable noise, but Marco was structural reality. Giovanni stood and announced that from that day forward, no ship would sail and no order would be given until the intelligence had passed through Marco's hands. Marco did not smile. He simply nodded and returned to his archives. He had never asked for power. He had simply made it impossible for the house to survive without him.